Amid the glittering gala, Carter, a single father in a worn vest, just wanted to deliver the cakes and leave. He paused when he saw a beautiful woman with re-ained eyes sitting quietly in the hallway. Carter offered a tissue and said something kind, unaware she was Alexandra Sterling, the most powerful CEO of the evening. That fragile smile pulled him into a whirlwind of opportunity, secrets, and choices that would change his life forever. The Manhattan Hotel ballroom sparkled under crystal chandeliers, 1,000 points of light reflecting off champagne flutes and designer gowns. The annual Sterling Technologies Charity Gala drew the city's elite board members, investors, journalists, with cameras ready to capture the perfect shot. In the center of it all stood Alexandra Sterling, 34 years old, blonde hair swept into an elegant twist, wearing a navy dress that cost more than most people's monthly rent. As CEO of Sterling Technologies, she commanded rooms like this. But tonight, beneath the polished exterior, cracks were showing. Carter Williams pushed his delivery cart through the service corridor, careful not to bump the tiered cake he'd spent 3 hours assembling that afternoon. At 36, he'd grown accustomed to moving through spaces where he didn't quite belong. His vest, borrowed from his late wife's father, fit well enough, but showed its age at the cuffs. He was tall, broad-shouldered in a way that made people assume he played sports. Though these days, his athleticism came from hauling flour sacks and chasing his 7-year-old daughter around their small apartment. Carter worked 2 jobs. By day, he drove delivery routes for a logistics company. By night and on weekends, he helped Zane Porter run the bakery that bore Zane's name, a modest storefront in Queens that somehow landed the occasional high-end catering contract. This gala was one of those rare wins. The pay would cover Lily's art class tuition for 2 months, maybe 3 if he stretched it. His daughter had her mother's gift for seeing beauty in everything, and Carter would work himself to dust before he let that light dim. Inside the ballroom, the fundraiser was in full swing. The cause, a scholarship fund for underprivileged students, was noble enough. But Alexandra Sterling knew the whispers that followed her wherever she went. Just last month, a business columnist had questioned whether her charitable initiatives were genuine or merely reputation management. The accusation stung because it contained a sliver of truth. She'd inherited the CEO position from her father 2 years ago, and every decision since had been scrutinized, dissected, judged. Tonight brought its own pressure. Her mother was in the hospital undergoing observation for a heart condition. The doctor said it was precautionary, but Alexandra had lost her father to a sudden cardiac event, and the word precautionary felt like a lie wrapped in medical terminology. Her phone buzzed in her clutch. Another update from the nursing staff. Her mother's vitals were stable, but they wanted to keep her overnight. Alexandra excused herself from a conversation with a hedge fund manager and slipped into the hallway. The corridor was blessedly quiet, just the muffled bass of the band bleeding through the walls. Alexandra found a bench beneath a painting of some long-dead philanthropist and sat down harder than she intended. She pressed her palms to her eyes, fighting back the pressure building behind them. Not here, not now. She couldn't afford to be human here. Carter emerged from the service entrance at precisely the wrong moment. He saw her immediately, the woman in the navy dress, shoulders curved inward, the universal posture of someone trying to hold themselves together. He should keep walking. He had cakes to unload, a daughter to pick up from the neighbor's apartment in 2 hours. But his late wife, Sarah, had taught him something about loneliness. It looked different on everyone, but once you'd seen it up close, you recognized it everywhere. He approached slowly, the way you might approach a skittish animal. When he was close enough to speak without raising his voice, he said, "Excuse me, are you all right?" Alexandra looked up, startled. Her first instinct was to lie, to deploy the practiced smile that had gotten her through countless uncomfortable moments. But something in the man's face, the genuine concern without any trace of pity, made her hesitate. "I'm fine," she said, the words automatic. "Just needed a moment." Carter nodded. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a packet of tissues, the kind you bought in bulk at the drugstore. He held out to her. "Sometimes we just need someone to sit nearby for a minute." "That's enough." She took the tissue, surprised by the simple gesture. In her world, kindness usually came with an agenda. "Thank you," she said, and meant it. Carter sat down on the opposite end of the bench, giving her space. He didn't speak, didn't try to fill the silence with small talk or unsolicited advice. He just sat there, a quiet presence in an expensive hallway where he probably wasn't supposed to be. After a minute, Alexandra found herself breathing easier. After 2 minutes, she realized she was smiling just a little. A waiter rushed past carrying a tray of wine glasses, moving too fast for the tight space. The tray tilted dangerously toward Alexandra. Carter's hand shot out, steadying the underside of the tray before a single drop could hit her dress. The waiter stammered an apology and hurried away. Carter checked Alexandra's dress anyway. "All clear," he said. "Crisis averted." "That would have been a disaster," Alexandra said, imagining the headlines. "CEO can't even attend her own gala without spilling wine." "The press would have blamed you for that," Carter asked, genuinely confused. "The press blames me for everything," Alexandra said. Then, surprising herself, she added, "Sorry, that was bitter." "Sounds honest," Carter said. He glanced at his watch, an old Timex with a cracked face. "I should get back to work. But for what it's worth, I hope your night gets better." "Wait," Alexandra said. "What's your name?" "Carter from Zane's Bakery." Before she could respond, a woman in a sharp gray suit appeared at the end of the hallway. Bridget Collins, Alexandra's executive assistant, had the look of someone who just tracked down a missing CEO and wasn't pleased about it. Her expressions softened when she saw Alexandra sitting with the delivery man. Saw something in her boss's face that hadn't been there in months. A genuine moment of calm. "Alexandra," Bridget said carefully, "they're ready for your speech." Alexandra stood, smoothing her dress. She looked at Carter one more time. "Thank you," she said. "Really?" Carter nodded and watched her walk away back straight, armor sliding back into place. He had no idea who she was. No idea that the quiet woman on the bench ran $1 billion company. No idea that Bridget Collins was making a mental note of his name, filing it away for future use. Damon Cross watched the entire exchange from the doorway to the ballroom. At 40, he perfected the art of seeing everything while appearing to notice nothing. As vice president of operations, he was Alexandra's counterpoint in executive meetings, the voice of caution, of cost-benefit analysis, of hard decisions. He was tall and thin in a way that made expensive clothes hang perfectly on his frame. His blonde hair was slicked back with precision, every strand accounted for. His gray eyes missed nothing. And right now, they were focused on the delivery man who just made the CEO smile. Damien didn't like variables he couldn't control. He'd built his career on predictability, on systems that ran like clockwork. Alexandra Sterling was already too emotional, too invested in optics over efficiency. And now she was making friends with the catering staff. He filed the observation away the way a chess player notes an opponent's tell. Back in the ballroom, the MC called Alexandra to the stage. She climbed the steps, took the microphone, and became the CEO again. Her speech was polished, hitting all the right notes about education and opportunity, but then perhaps still feeling the echo of that quiet moment in the hallway. She ad-libbed. "We talk a lot about invisible systems." Alexandra said, "The infrastructure that makes modern life possible. But we forget about invisible people, the ones who make events like this happen. The kitchen staff, the security team, the people who set up the chairs and string the lights. They're as essential as any algorithm we write or any product we launch. A functional society sees everyone." The audience applauded politely. Most hadn't really heard her, but a journalist in the third row perked up, scribbling notes. Damon Cross noticed that, too. "That's a lovely sentiment." A reporter called out during the Q&A. "But there have been questions about Sterling Technologies' scholarship fund. Some say it's more about optics than impact. How do you respond?" Alexandra's jaw tightened, but she kept her voice steady. "Our scholarship program has put 43 students through college in the past 2 years. Every one of them is tracked, supported, mentored. The data is public. Judge us on results, not speculation." Backstage, Bridget vinched. It was a good answer, but it would still make headlines. Constance Miller, the company's chief legal counsel, stood beside her, arms crossed. At 45, Constance had seen enough media cycles to know how this would play. "We need to tighten the messaging," she muttered. William Hart, the board chairman, appeared at Constance's shoulder. At 58, he'd guided Sterling Technologies through 2 recessions and 3 CEO transitions. "Tell Alexandra to focus on the numbers," he said quietly. "Less poetry, more profit margin." But it was Damien who was already composing a text message to a contact at a satellite PR firm. A contact who owed him favors might have something interesting for you. He typed CEO getting cozy with catering staff. Could be a pattern. Carter, oblivious to all of this, finished unloading the final tier of the cake and headed for the service exit. He passed behind the stage, heard the tail end of Alexandra's speech through the curtain, the part about invisible people. He paused, listening. Something in her voice reminded him of Sarah, the way his wife used to talk about her nursing job. "People only notice us when something goes wrong," Sarah had said once. "Otherwise, we're wallpaper." As Carter left the building, Bridget Collins was already making her way toward him. She caught him at the loading dock, slightly out of breath. "Carter, right?" she said. He turned surprised. "Yes, ma'am. I'm Bridget Collins. I work for Sterling Technologies." She handed him a business card. "We have a series of community events coming up, soup kitchens, skill-ewing workshops for at-risk youth. We need someone who can handle logistics and catering for field operations. It's a 6-week contract, decent pay, flexible hours. Would you be interested in discussing it?" Carter stared at the card. Sterling Technologies. The woman on the bench. "Is this because?" "It's because we need someone competent," Bridget said. "Someone who notices when things are about to go wrong and fixes them before they do. Like that wine tray tonight." Carter thought about his bank balance, about Lily's school fees, about the medical bills from Sarah's final year that still arrived like ghosts in the mail. "Yeah," he said. "I'd like to discuss it." "Good," Bridget said. "I'll call you tomorrow." The next morning, Carter's phone rang while he was packing Lily's lunch. Bridget's voice was crisp. "Professional. Can you come to Sterling headquarters at 2 this afternoon? We'd like to do a preliminary interview." "I'm on a delivery route until 3 o'clock, Carter said. 3:30. Then Carter borrowed Zane's car and drove into Manhattan, fighting the knot in his stomach. The Sterling Technologies building was all glass and steel, a monument to corporate achievement. Security was tight. Carter had to show ID twice before he was allowed past the lobby. A young intern escorted him to the 32nd floor. The conference room had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Carter stood there in his cleanest shirt, still just a button down from Target, and felt like an imposter. Other employees walked past in tailored suits, moving with the confidence of people who belonged here. Alexandra Sterling entered the room with Bridget at her side. This time, Carter recognized her immediately. The CEO, the woman from a bench. She extended her hand. Professional. No trace of vulnerability. "Mr. Williams, thank you for coming. I didn't know Carter started that I run the company." Alexandra smiled slightly. "I prefer it that way sometimes. Please sit." The interview was unlike anything Carter had experienced. Alexandra didn't ask about his resume or his work history. Instead, she posed a scenario. "You're running a field kitchen for a community meal. It's 3 hours before service. The power goes out. What do?" Carter didn't hesitate. "First, preserve what's already cooked. Move it to insulated containers. Use ice if necessary. Second, assess backup options. Do we have a generator? Can we borrow one? Can we switch to a cold meal service? Third, communicate. Tell your team the plan. Tell your guests what to expect. Transparency builds trust." Alexandra glanced at Bridget, who nodded subtly. "The refrigerated truck with your supplies gets stuck in traffic," Alexandra continued. "It's going to be 2 hours late. Contact local suppliers, grocery stores, restaurants. Explain the situation. Most community businesses will help if you're honest and offer to pay. Worst case, you rescale the menu to what you can source immediately." "Why do you think like this?" Alexandra asked. Carter met her eyes. "Because when my wife was sick, I learned that systems fail. The people who survive are the ones who adapt." There was a moment of silence. Bridget made another note. Alexandra leaned back in her chair. "The contract is 6 weeks part-time, organizing logistics and catering for our community outreach program. We're partnering with shelters, schools, youth centers. You'd report to Bridget, but you'd have autonomy in the field. Can you start next week? Yes, Carter said. Then, because he had to ask why me, because you see people, Alexandra said simply. And that's rarer than you think. Carter signed the contract that afternoon. When he picked up Lily from school, she asked why he was smiling. I got a new job, he told her. Just for a little while. Doing what? Lily asked, swinging his hand. Helping people, Carter said. The first community event was at a shelter in Brooklyn. Carter arrived early, surveyed the space, and immediately started troubleshooting. The kitchen was functional, but cramped. The dining area could seat 80, maybe 90 if they pushed. He drew up a flowchart for food service, factored in dietary restrictions, calculated portions to minimize waste. Alexandra showed up mid-afternoon, surprising everyone. She didn't announce herself, just started helping unload supplies. Carter watched her work, noticed how she listened when the shelter manager explained their challenges. This wasn't a photo op. This was someone trying to understand. The event went smoothly. Carter's team served 112 meals, packed 40 lunches for the next day, and donated the surplus to the night staff. Alexandra stayed until the end, helping with cleanup. When they were loading the final boxes into the truck, she turned to Carter. You made this look easy. It's only easy if you plan for failure, Carter said. Assume the worst, hope for the best. Cynical, Alexandra said. Practical, Carter corrected. Over the next 2 weeks, they fell into a rhythm. Carter organized the events. Alexandra attended when she could. She brought Lily to one, a cooking workshop for kids at a community center in Queens. Lily was shy at first, but when she saw the other children decorating cupcakes, she joined in with fierce concentration. Alexandra watched Carter with his daughter, saw the way he crouched down to Lily's eye level. The way he listened to her seriously when she explained her frosting technique, it reminded Alexandra of her own father before the company consumed him before the heart attack. How old is she? Alexandra asked. 7, Carter said. Going on 30. She's lucky to have you. Carter looked at Lily laughing now with a girl who'd put sprinkles in her hair. I'm the lucky one. Late one evening, after a particularly long event, Alexandra and Carter found themselves cleaning up alone. The volunteers had left. The shelter staff was preparing for the night shift. Carter was breaking down tables when Alexandra appeared beside him with a trash bag. You don't have to, he started. I want, she said. They worked in comfortable silence for a while. Then Alexandra spoke. My mother's in the hospital. She's stable now, but it's been scary. Carter paused. I'm sorry. I keep thinking about my father. He died 2 years ago. Heart attack. No warning. One day, he was running board meetings. The next, he was gone. She tied off a trash bag with more force than necessary. I inherited the company, and I have no idea if I'm doing it right. You're here. Carter said that counts for something. Is it enough? Carter thought about Sarah's final months, about the decisions he'd made, the ones that still kept him awake at night. I don't think we ever know if it's enough. We just do the best we can and hope it matters. Alexandra smiled. Sad but genuine. Your wife. What was she like? Practical, funny. She was a nurse. Worked in the ER. She saw the worst of people and still believed in the best of them. Carter picked up another table, muscle straining. She got sick. Cancer. The bills. He shook his head. I'm still paying them off. How much? Alexandra asked. $32,000? Carter said. Give or take. Alexandra didn't say anything, but she filed the number away that night alone in her office. She pulled up the Sterling Care Fund applications from 4 years ago. She searched for Carter Williams. Nothing. She searched for Sarah Williams. There it was. An application for emergency medical assistance denied due to incomplete documentation. One missing form, one bureaucratic gap, one death. Alexandra closed her laptop and put her head in her hands. The midpoint came quietly without announcement. Alexandra called Carter into a conference room at the end of his 3rd week. I want to offer you something more permanent, she said. Part-time program operations, lead for our entire community initiative that it's a newly created position. You'd oversee food service, logistics, and field coordination across the city. The pay is better, and there's a benefit. Dependents of employees are eligible for our scholarship programs. Carter stared at her. Lily could apply. She'd qualify, Alexandra said. Art classes, music lessons, whatever helps her grow. Why are you doing this? Carter asked. Because the program needs you, Alexandra said. And because I think we've been looking for leadership in the wrong places. Carter wanted to say yes immediately, but he'd learned to read between lines. What's the catch? You be under scrutiny, Alexandra admitted. Any contractor working directly with me gets attention from the board, from the media. Some people won't like that you don't have a fancy degree or a corporate background. Some people like Damian Cross, Carter asked. He'd seen the VP at the last event watching from a distance, taking notes on a tablet, especially people like Damian, Alexandra said. Carter thought about Lily, about the bills, about the chance to build something meaningful. I'm in, he said, but I have one condition. Everything we do, every event, every dollar spent, we document it. Public dashboard. Full transparency. I don't want anyone questioning if this is real. Alexandra extended her hand. Deal. Damon Cross had been watching and waiting. The opportunity came 2 weeks later. One of Carter's team members took photos during a food packing event. In one shot, Carter was loading a box of surplus bread into his car. It was innocent. The bread was approved for staff to take home, part of the anti-waste protocol Carter had implemented, but in the right context with the right caption, it looked like theft. The photos appeared on a gossip blog known for corporate hit pieces. Sterling Technologies CEO's new hire caught diverting charitable food supplies. The article was vague on details, but heavy on insinuation. Within hours, it was trending on social media. Shareholders started asking questions. Alexandra's phone exploded with messages from aboard. William Hart called an emergency meeting. Constance arrived at Alexandra's office with a legal pad full of notes. We need to suspend him, she said. Just temporarily, until we investigate. He didn't steal anything, Alexandra said. That's not the point, Constance replied. The optics are toxic. If we don't act, it looks like we're covering for him. Bridget knocked and entered without waiting. Carter's here. He wants to talk to you. Alexandra met Carter in her office. He looked tired but calm. I know about the article, he said. I brought all my logs, every transfer form, every photo timestamp. I was taking food to Street Helen Shelter. It's in my weekly report. I believe you, Alexandra said, but you still have to suspend me. Carter finished. Alexandra wanted to fight, wanted to tell the board to trust her judgment. But she'd been CEO long enough to know when the battle was already lost. 72 hours. She said quietly. Paid leave while we investigate. I'm sorry. Don't be. Carter said, you're doing your job. Just he pulled an envelope from his jacket. This is Lily's thank you card. She wrote it for the volunteers. I thought you might want to see it. Alexandra took the card, but didn't open it. Well, fix this, she promised. I know, Carter said. And then, because he could see the guilt in her eyes. This isn't your fault, but it was in a way. That night, Alexandra finally opened Lily's card. Inside was a child's drawing of a kitchen, stick figures with big smiles, and a message in careful handwriting. Thank you for letting me meet new friends of the skill class. I'm not afraid of the dark anymore, because in the kitchen, there are so many good people. Alexandra set the card down and made a decision. Bridget didn't wait for official approval. She started gathering evidence the moment Carter left. She pulled security footage from the warehouse, showing Carter properly logging every food transfer. She contacted the manager at Street Helen Shelter, who provided a signed statement confirming every delivery. She retrieved geotags from the photos, proving the exact time and location. Zane Porter, Carter's boss at the bakery, showed up at Sterling headquarters unannounced. I've got invoices, he told Bridget. Timestamped photos. Carter's been redirecting surplus food to shelters for 2 years. It's legal, documented, and saves my business on waste disposal fees. Whoever's trying to frame him doesn't know what they're doing. Constance Miller started her own investigation, not of Carter, but of the leak. The original photos had come from an account linked to a satellite PR firm. That firm had exactly 3 clients. One of them was a shell corporation that paid for reputation management services. But the pattern is clear. Alexandra called William Hart directly. We need to meet, all of us, tomorrow. The board meeting room was on the 45th floor with a view that made the city look like a game board. Williams sat at the head of the table. Damon sat to his right, composed and calm. Other board members filled the remaining seats, varying degrees of concern on their faces. Alexandra entered last, carrying a folder. "Before we start," she said, "I want to be clear about something. 4 years ago, we denied an emergency assistance application from a woman named Sarah Williams. She was the wife of the contractor we're discussing today. She needed help with medical bills. She died 6 months later. Carter Williams has been paying off her debt ever since." The room went silent. Damon's expression didn't change, but his fingers tightened on his pen. "I'm not saying we caused her death," Alexandra continued, "but our system failed to see her as a person. It failed to see him. And when I finally did see him, when I treated him like a human being instead of a line item, this is how we respond." Alexandra Williams said carefully, "No one is disputing that we should treat people well. But the optics are that we accused a good man of theft because it was convenient." Alexandra cut him off. She opened the folder. "Here's the footage showing proper protocol. Here's the shelter documentation. Here's a log of every single food transfer for the past 2 months. Carter Williams didn't steal. He optimized. He took surplus food that would have been thrown away and made sure it fed people." Constance stood, adding her own file to the table. "And here's the trail showing that the leak came from a PR firm with connections to this company, specifically connections to someone in this room." All eyes turned to Damien. He remained still for a beat, then smiled thinly. "That's quite an accusation." "It's a pattern," Constance said. "Would you like me to share the emails?" William Hart looked between Damien and Alexandra, reading the room. He'd survived as chairman by knowing when to cut losses. "Damien," he said quietly, "I think you should step out while we discuss this." "I like to hear this," Damien said. "It wasn't a suggestion," William replied. Damien stood, buttoned his suit jacket, and walked out. The door closed behind him with a soft click. "Show me everything," Williams said to Alexandra. They spent an hour reviewing the evidence. Carter was cleared by unanimous decision. Damien was suspended pending a full investigation in a conflict of interest violations. And then Alexandra made her pitch. "I want to formalize Carter's position," she said. "Program operations, lead with a seat at operational meetings. I want to create a public dashboard showing exactly where our charitable dollars go, food costs, volunteer hours, outcomes, full transparency, and I want to establish a new scholarship specifically for children of people who've been failed by gaps in our assistance programs." "That's a lot of structural change," one board member said. "It's overdue," William replied. He looked at Alexandra with something like, "Respect, do it." The press conference was scheduled for the next morning. Alexandra stood at a podium, cameras flashing, reporters shouting questions. She was calm, centered, prepared. "Yesterday, Sterling Technologies made a mistake," she began. "We allowed speculation to override evidence. We acted on optics instead of truth. I'm here to correct that." She outlined the investigation's findings, showed the documentation, and made the announcement. "Effective immediately, we're implementing a real-time transparency dashboard for all community programs. You'll be able to see where every dollar goes, every meal served, every workshop held. We're also launching the Sterling Second Chance Scholarship for students whose families have faced systemic barriers to assistance." A reporter stood. "What about Damian Cross?" "Mr. Cross has been suspended while we investigate violations of company ethics policies," Alexandra said evenly. "That investigation is ongoing." And Carter Williams, Alexandra allowed herself a small smile. Mr. Williams is our new program operations lead. He'll be expanding our community programs citywide. And yes, before you ask, his daughter is eligible for our scholarship programs. She earned that eligibility the same way every other child does, by being a child who deserves opportunity. After the press conference, Alexandra went directly to Carter's apartment in Queens. It was a third-floor walk-up, clean but cramped. Lily answered the door, eyes wide. "Are you the lady from the kitchen?" "I am," Alexandra said. "Is your dad home?" Carter appeared behind Lily, surprised. "Alexandra, what?" "I came to ask you in person," she said. "The job is yours if you want it. Program operations lead. We're doubling the budget, expanding to 12 community sites, part-time with benefits, and Lily's scholarship is approved. Carter looked at his daughter, then back at Alexandra. I have one condition. Name it. Every report goes public. No hiding the failures. If something doesn't work, we document why, and we fix it. That's what I want to, Alexandra said. Carter extended his hand. Then let's change some lives. 3 months later, the dashboard showed results that surprised even the skeptics. The community kitchen program had reduced food waste by 62%, while increasing meals served by 48%. The workshops had a 93% attendance rate. 3 formerly homeless individuals had been hired full-time by Sterling Technologies. Lily Williams was enrolled in an art and science enrichment program. Her tuition covered by the scholarship that bore his late mother's name, the Sarah Williams Second Chance Fund. Carter had framed her first project, a mixed media piece titled Kitchen of Light, and hung it in his office. Damon Cross faced formal charges for ethics violations and was quietly removed from the company. The satellite PR firm lost its remaining clients. William Hart, who'd watched the entire affair unfold, made a note to trust Alexander's instincts more and spreadsheets less. On a Thursday evening, as the sun set over Manhattan, Alexander stood on the rooftop terrace of Sterling Technologies. Carter joined her, 2 coffees in hand. Below them, the city hummed with life, millions of people, millions of stories, most of them invisible from this height. That night at the Gala, Alexander said, when you said people just need someone to sit nearby for a minute, Carter said, so did I when I talked about invisible people. She turned to face him, but I didn't really see them. Not until you showed me how. You were already looking, Carter said. You just needed permission to trust what you saw. Alexander smiled. The board approved the long-term contract. 5 years with equity options. If the program hits community impact targets, you'd be set. Lily would be set because I offered someone a tissue, Carter said wonderingly. Because you saw a person, Alexander corrected. Everything else followed from that. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the city lights blink on one by one. Somewhere down there, a kitchen was serving dinner to families who needed it. Somewhere a kid was learning a skill that might change their trajectory. Somewhere a system was working the way it was supposed to, seeing people, helping people, trusting that kindness could be both strategic and sincere. I should get Lily, Carter said eventually. She's at Zay's, probably covered in flour. I'll walk down with you, Alexander said. They rode the elevator together, standing beside each other in the descending quiet. When the doors opened to the lobby, they stepped out into the evening air. Lai was indeed covered in flour, but also grinning, holding a box of cookies she decorated with obsessive precision. Look what I made, she announced. They're beautiful, Alexandra said, meaning it. Lily handed her a cookie shaped like a star. This one's for you, because Dad says you see people. Alexandra took the cookie, her throat suddenly tight. Thank you, Lily. They walked together to the subway station, the 3 of them passing through the city like any other people heading home after a long day. And maybe that was the point. Maybe the extraordinary was always built on the ordinary, on small kindnesses, on seeing and being seen, on the choice to sit down beside someone when they needed it most. Above them, the Sterling Technologies building glowed against the darkening sky, a monument to innovation and profit and progress. But inside its walls, in the spaces between the spreadsheets and the shareholder reports, something older and simpler was taking root. The understanding that systems were made of people, and people were made of moments, and moments mattered more than anyone wanted to admit. Carter and Lily disappeared down the subway steps. Alexandra watched them go, then looked back at the building she'd inherited, the company she'd fought to reshape. It was still hers, still a challenge, still a weight. But tonight, for the first time in a long time, it felt like something else too. It felt like